Okay, it's Thursday, May 20th, 2021, and I'm just departing my hotel, the Palms, in Key West, historic Key West. And my first stop is at a CVS, and then I'm going to try to catch a few particular things in Key West. It's kind of a rainy day, and I found that everything is just incredibly crowded, and many things that require reservations are long sold out. I did not prepare for that because I didn't really know how things were going to transpire. It's kind of an open-ended, improvise as you go kind of trip. It's all in this residential neighborhood. That's where my hotel was, but actually I thought it was quite a nice place. I liked it. I had a good night there. Quaint, historic feeling, pleasant, air-conditioned, nice bed. It's just a couple blocks north of Truman Street, or Truman Avenue, which is also US Highway 1. And the hotel's front is on White Street. So I guess I'm putting in a bit of a plug for it. No problems with gas down here. I was worried about that, but bicycles are actually a really good way to get around down here. If I was going to stay and do some serious sightseeing and attraction going, I would rent one of the many bicycles that are seemingly available everywhere down here. That's from the storm yesterday that I waited out inside my hotel room. And these things are everywhere down here. Free range. And they've got chicks too. So I don't want to get too close and threaten them. This is Duval Street up here. Supposedly one of the busiest streets in Key West. Following the signs to Fort Zachary Taylor Historical Site. I was thinking of going to the Ernest Hemingway house for a tour, but it looked like a mob scene already, so I'm bypassing that. It wasn't high on my priority list anyhow. Hopefully they'll throw me another sign here. Since I saw the one sign, hopefully there will be another. Ah, yeah, there one is. Looks like it's about the way I was originally thinking of coming into here, from the northeast side. I'm just keeping the camera rolling to give you some of the Key West ambiance. Everywhere I've gone here, it looks pretty much like this. So, coming up to a roundabout here for the Truman Waterfront Park. Well, Fort Zachary Taylor Historical Park admission. Okay, how the hell you get in here? I guess I go this way. Okay, it was $4.50 to get into the park. That was for one person. I imagine it's more for more people. Okay, she said the first parking area, look for the big cannon and follow that. So that's a big cannon. Okay. Follow the path to the big cannon. Please stay off cannon. Fort Taylor was constructed in 1845 as part of the third-tier system of defense, which called for the establishment of masonry fortresses constructed along America's coastline to prevent sea attacks upon the United States. This fort was an important defensive structure for the United States because of its command over the waters of the Straits of Florida and the Gulf of Mexico. When completed, the fort was 3 stories tall, held 140 cannon, and was home to almost 450 soldiers. Fort Taylor remained under federal control during the Civil War and was the headquarters of the U.S. Navy East Gulf Coast Blockading Squadron. The current form of the fort is largely the result of alterations made in 1898, including removal of the 2 upper tiers, filling casemates with sand and obsolete ordnance, and construction of modern rifled artillery emplacements, Battery Adair and Battery Osceola. Fort Taylor continued to defend the United States during the Spanish-American War, World War I, and World War II. The fort's service to the nation ended in 1947. Fort Taylor is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is a National Historic Landmark. There we go. The blacksmith shop. With the intermittent raindrops coming down here, I need to go back to my car and get an umbrella and also my lens cleaner kit because I keep catching raindrops on my lens. Like the Rock of Gibraltar. Fort Taylor served faithfully through the American Civil War and was called the Gibraltar of the Florida Straits, even though it never fired a single shot in defense. Right next door to this is, I think it's part of a modern naval facility. So that's probably as close as we're going to get to what it looked like originally. And there is an old photo of it. View of the fort from Key West. This is the so-called barrack. Those are more modern, and there's a fence line right there between the buildings, but these are the original barracks for the soldiers. It housed dining halls, cisterns, infirmary, offices, chapels, and Sally Port, or the Sally Port. think that's probably the ladder steps up to there where we can't get to. This almost looks like a chain hoist from down below, probably to bring ammunition up to this level. That would be my guess. Would have been another one of those here. Look to be the older emplacements, with the newer ones being the ones we were just looking at. Not positive of that, but just the style of the brick and masonry work suggests that to me. Lots of places where cannon could be mounted and swiveled. I'm guessing that all this foliage probably wasn't there at the time. They would have had a better view of the water just beyond. In December of 1968, Howard S. England and a small group of volunteers started an 8.5-year quest at Fort Taylor. Using shovels and a borrowed civilian construction crane, they began the search for American Civil War treasures at the fort. Within an hour, they had discovered the first iron artifacts. The artifacts were buried in 1898 under the direction of Lieutenant C.H. McKinstry of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Some were placed in the concrete face of the battery Osceola, while others were buried in the gun rooms in front of the battery's south base. His initiative not only helped to protect the new magazines, but also unwittingly ensured the bulk of the fort's armaments would be preserved for the future. Several of the guns placed within the concrete of the battery are still visible. So that would be those guys there. Battery Osceola. Battery Osceola was added to the fort in 1898. It mounted two 12-inch long-range rifles on barbette carriages. The guns each weighed over 117,000 pounds and fired shells which could reach targets over 30,000 yards, almost 17 miles. They fired shells which weighed almost 1,000 pounds and used over 100 pounds of powder. The battery contained two powder magazines on the first level to store powder and projectiles. There were two motor generators to provide electric power for lighting, communication, and movement of ordnance, as well as a plotting room for the battery. Dedicated shell hoists, we saw those already, raised shot and powder from within the magazine to the upper level. A grown man nestled inside the breech of the gun demonstrates the size of the projectile. There's a nice scale drawing of what those look like. We already saw the mounts for those. And there's a photo of same. And there's an illustration of the hoist that we saw the top of. Between 1906 and 1916, as well as between 1921 and 1941, the U.S. Army kept Battery Osceola in caretaker status. By World War II, the 12-inch guns were obsolete and no longer in use. In 1943, the U.S. Army removed the guns and carriages and shipped them to the Watervliet Arsenal. I suppose that's Dutch. So it looks like some sort of bunks in there. Battery Adair. Battery Adair was designed in the early 1890s as part of the Endicott period upgrades to Fort Taylor. It added four 3-inch 15-pounder rapid-fire rifles on masking parapet mounts. Construction began in 1898 under the supervision of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This battery was 2 stories tall and built in place of the American Civil War casements, or casemates, along the west face of the fort. The 4 3-inch guns were emplaced on the upper level with a separate powder magazine for each emplacement on the lower level. Shell and powder hoists were not required because the 3-inch ammunition was light enough to be hand carried. The guns were retired when the United States entered World War I. There was a widespread removal of coastal defensive weapons for service in Europe. Many of the gun and mortar tubes removed were sent to arsenals for modification and mounting on mobile carriages. On March 27, 1920, all 4 guns were ordered to be removed and the carriages salvaged. Dredging of the moat in 1891 recovered the 4 gun mounts from the sediment of the former ocean bottom. So there are pictures and illustrations, photos and illustrations of those guns. It's a moat there. And then the ocean is off there. That seems like an inauthentic place to mount those cannon. Unless they were to shoot right through that hole. It seems like, I'm not sure, maybe. What do I know? Doesn't seem like they'd be aimable with holes that small to shoot through. Yeah, this is probably more authentic, having them mounted up higher and with their muzzles closer to the holes in the walls. Everything's tapered such that they could swivel left and right, and with a certain amount of up and down as well. So this is Civil War vintage stuff here, apparently. Oh, nice. Got a big honking garden spider down here. This spider keeps America's enemies away. So this is, those are the roofs of the barracks, or the barrack as they call it. And then that's all more modern stuff over there. According to the map, that's part of a naval installation that's active. harbor view. The northwest bastion provides an excellent view of Key West Harbor. To the left, south, is the main ship channel, and to the right, north, is the main harbor. Key West was headquarters of the East Coast blockading fleet, which was charged with preventing the flow of goods and war materials into and out of Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. As blockade runners were captured by the U.S. Navy, they were brought to Key West. During World Wars I and II, the fort protected the submarine and destroyer forces from nearby U.S. naval station. Nearby U.S. naval station. In World War II, two 90mm M1 anti-motor torpedo boat guns were placed adjacent to and on Battery Adair. They provided anti-shipping and anti-aircraft defense for the U.S. naval station. And there are illustrations and photos of the same. In the late 1890s, Key West was the winter home for the North Atlantic Fleet, including the battleship Maine. It was anchored in the Key West Harbor, a short distance from the fort, days before it left for Havana Harbor in late January of 1898. 3 weeks later, on the evening of February 15, 1898, a mysterious explosion sank the battleship in Havana Harbor. This event led to the declaration of war against Spain in April of 1898. And then this just shows the average Civil War cannon range of 3 miles. There's Key West, there's where Fort Taylor is, and that's sort of the coverage of an average cannon. And this boat kind of wraps around all 3 faces of the fort. So this is the barrack. Chapel. With the fireplaces, I'm not sure what this is, but it looks a little nicer than some of the others. Maybe it's a mess area. Morning. Life in the barrack. The 3-story barrack located on the gorge or landward side of the fort, it's only 1 story now, served as the center of life for its soldiers. Facilities included sleeping quarters, offices, chapels, kitchens, dining rooms, tidal flushing latrines, and an infirmary. Even though the fort never came under enemy attack during the war, many died at Fort Taylor, chiefly falling prey to typhoid and yellow fevers. The barrack as seen today was reduced to 1 story when the fort was modernized during the Spanish-American War. That's what the barrack would have looked like originally. As southern states began to secede from the Union in early 1861 and hostilities approached, Captain E.B. Hunt, chief engineer at Fort Taylor, worked to increase the protection of the gorge. Armored grills were attached to the ground floor windows. Other rooms of the barrack were converted to gun rooms for 8-inch Columbiads. Additional Columbiads and siege mortars were added to the third floor. This looks rather like a mess area, doesn't it? This is the Sally Port. The only way in, the Sally Port served as the only entrance to the fort. It was accessed by crossing a 1,100-foot wooden causeway from the island. All personnel and goods entered and exited the fort through the Sally Port. A moat and drawbridge protected the fort from unauthorized access. This is a view of the wooden causeway taken from Key West leading up to the Sally Port of the Fort Barrack. So you can see it's a much more imposing structure back then than it is now. View of the Sally Port from inside the fort looking towards Key West. And there it is. These benches I think are just here so people can watch the movie. Thanks to Ken Burns' Civil War miniseries, this particular tune is forever associated with the Civil War, even though it was written much later. I'm having a brain fart and can't remember the name of the song at the moment, but... "1,000 ball cartridges." Excuse me. Morning. Alright, having spent a while at the Fort Zachary Taylor, or just Fort Taylor. I'm departing and heading to my next stop, which is the southernmost point in the continental USA. Big whoop, but still, I figure I should go there very briefly, and it's close to where I am. Not looking out on the weather here.
Turn right, then take the second left. Turn right on Emma Street.
This is just a merry chase my GPS is putting me on. There was a more direct route to get out, but the GPS didn't like it for some reason.
In 1/4 mile, turn left on Amelia Street, then take the first right.
But again, it seems like, except for the really commercial, built-up Las Vegas strippy kind of area that's to the northeast of downtown Key West, most of historical Key West, where most of the real attractions are, is all kind of like this, it appears. I haven't been to every square inch of it, but that's the way it looks. This area here is apparently some sort of
turn left on Amelia Street,
public housing,
the first right,
administered by the city, so just real basic cinder block kind of. I'm not sure, these might be part of the same thing. Yeah, Housing Authority of City of Key West. So low rent housing units.
turn right on Whitehead Street.
Fair number of one-way streets down here too. Last night I failed to take a photo or a video snapshot of the Cuban sandwich I had for dinner.
In 1/4 mile, arrive at southernmost point, continental USA, on the right.
It was a Cuban sandwich from, I think it was Susie's or something. deli on White Street. Best sandwich I've had in my entire life. It was wonderful. Well, what's parking gonna be like here? Here's somebody leaving. Maybe I can slip in between them. This is a pay to park here, but I'm going to be here for about 1 minute, so I don't think it makes sense to do that. A soaky wet bike tour. You want me to hold the camera for you, or you got somebody already? Okay, you got it.
Yeah, so fun.
They've already Key West for the rain.
1, 2, 3. We were on the beach. One more.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, we're like, yeah, it's raining.
Would you mind getting me two?
Yeah.
I've actually got a video going here, so you just need to hold it. You don't need to push any buttons or
Okay,
anything.
just hold it.
Just keep it pointing.
I sure will. Yeah.
Hour long.
Good enough.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Since you're here.
You want to upright or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Thank you so much. Thank you. I took it already. I can take you too.
Just watch that bridge there.
Okay, it's ready.
Oh, this is watch that bridge there.
Sorry.
It's about every fourth wave gets one out of there. A lot of people seem to get around in golf carts here too.
Turn right on Vernon Avenue, then take the first left.
Once again, I'm leaving the video going just because it gives some coverage of Key West in the course of driving around.
Turn right on Alberta Avenue.
I wonder if that's that same tour. Got the green bikes, the green ponchos. This is Casa Marina. At Waldorf Astoria Resort. Yeah, that's got to be the whole tour here. This is the Clarence S. Higgs Memorial Beach. And we could go out there onto the pier, but I don't think we'd see anything haven't seen already. And that would get a lot wetter. West Martello Tower Citadel Hurricane Repairs. Is that it? I don't know what that is. But they did say that it was just a remnant of a Civil War fort.
Arriving at Higgs Beach, on the right.
Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to get out of the car here. Parking by disabled permit. That's why nobody's parking there. That would explain a lot. So, on account of the weather and general lack of time, I'm not gonna stay in Key West any longer. My hotel for tonight is back on Marathon, and I have a higher priority to Try to see some more of those old bridges. Make a mini bridge odyssey out of it. So I want to have plenty of time to do that. I'm planning on taking the southernmost leg of highway A1A, a highway I used to live on in Cocoa Beach, Florida when I was about 5 and 6 years old. 4, 5, and 6 years old. And that goes right along the airport. And to get there I need to take Bertha Street, which I was seeing signs for being closed, and luckily they're closed. It's closed in the direction I don't need to go. Oh, let's make a splash. Yeah, that was fun. Okay, this is, I think, the terminus of A1A here, at least according to the map. This could be a very nice place when the weather's good. Looks like a real nice beach here and everything. Just off to our left, behind the trees, is Key West International Airport. Entrance to the airport. Riviera Canal. And here we rejoin US Highway A, US Highway 1, which is the main highway on the Keys, and we can now start heading back to the east. Crossing the Cow Key Canal.